All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Weekly Hope. I'm Kirsten Hagland, and it's such a joy to have you here with us. Just want to start out by saying we had a little bit of technical difficulties, so thank you for being patient with us and joining us here today for this very, very special and very relevant, and I think it's going to be a great conversation on this topic today. So before I welcome our guest, who is right there on the other side of the screen with me, Dr. Nicole Garber, just want to do a little DL on what this show is, what we're all about. So here at Eating Disorder Hope, we have this weekly Facebook Live show, Weekly Hope, usually every Wednesday. This week we're doing two, so we're here Tuesday and Wednesday. But we go live on Facebook and we welcome different guests from across the spectrum of eating disorders and the mental health field to talk about a wide range of topics. To that end, we're always looking for new topics. So if you have an idea or something you want to hear more about, always feel free to let us know in the comments, send us a message on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, let us know what you want to hear about. But anyway, yeah, so we open up the floor to these experts. We get clinicians, researchers, authors, advocates, people sharing their own recovery stories, and we get their insight. And we also open up the conversation to you. So one of obviously the great things about doing this on Facebook is that we get to hear from you. We get to hear your comments, your thoughts, your questions. And it's something that I often say that I wish that during my time in recovery, for me and my family, that we had something like this where we were able to ask experts right there, plug in it and ask our questions. So just take advantage of this opportunity. With that, just want to also welcome you to say hello, let us know where you're signing in from, tell us your name, where you come from. We just always love seeing who's watching out there. So feel free to say hello. We always love that. And we just can't wait to hear from you. If you're joining us back, if this is something weekly for you, just want to say welcome back and so glad that you're here. Of course, we always welcome you as well to say hello, but just want to welcome you back to the show. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce our very special guest for today. It's Dr. Nicole Garber. She is the medical director at the Meadows Ranch. And she's got a really cool biography, so I'm just going to read a little bit of it for you before we dive in. She completed her general psychiatry residency at Emory University School of Medicine, or actually, I was just saying that I did my undergrad at Emory, so I love that. And her child and adolescent psychiatry fellowship at Baylor College of Medicine. She worked at the Menninger Clinic, where she created the adolescent eating disorder track. She's also served as the medical director for Arizona Children's Association, and she's intensively trained in dialectical behavioral therapy, otherwise known as DBT, and has led at least 2 skills training groups as a week for the past 4 years. She's also trained in mentalization-based treatment, MBT, trauma, look at this. I can't say all your amazing qualifications, Dr. Garber. Trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, and is currently training under the Houston Psychoanalytic Association in psychodynamic therapy in adolescents and adults. There you go. You are an incredible woman.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to check in. You can hear and see me okay, Dr. Garber?
Yes, I can see you and hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can. All right, good. Just wanted to make sure that we were connected. Oh, cool. We've already got some people signing on. Jeremy says hello from Nashville. Hey, Jeremy. Denise says hello. Hey, Denise. Charisse. Sarah Rutherford, hello from Australia. Hey, Sarah. So good to see you here again. So, Dr. Garber, I'm really glad that we're talking about this today because it's a question that I hear a lot and one that I'm asked often when I've been speaking at events, and that's like, what does recovered really look like? What does it mean? What term do we use? Recovered, in recovery? Can people be fully recovered? So that's what I want to dive in to with you today. So, but before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role at the Meadows Ranch and a little bit about the treatment that you guys offer there?
Great. Thank you so much. I really am appreciative to be here, and I'm super appreciative that people hung in during the technical difficulties.
Yes.
At the Meadows Ranch, we treat ladies only from ages 10 onwards up with people who have an eating disorder. We treat all spectrums of the eating disorder world, from anorexia, bulimia, ARFID, and binge eating disorder. And we treat through inpatient, residential, and partial hospitalization. our bread and butter patients are typically those who have an eating disorder and some type of co-occurring trauma. That can be big T trauma, but it also, we do a really nice job with relational trauma. We do standard treatment in terms of nutrition rehabilitation, individual therapy, group therapy, and then we have an intensive family week program that our patients can go through. In terms of treating trauma, we do it through a couple of different modalities. So most of our therapists are trained in EMDR. And then because we are at the Meadows, we also do PM Melody's model post-induction treatment of childhood trauma and developmental immaturity, which really helps people deal not only with the trauma, but with the core issues that come about because of the trauma.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, and that's so important. And I love that you guys at the Meadows Ranch do really focus on not just eating disorder recovery, but the underlying trauma. And that's just increasingly such an issue. And so really, really neat that you guys do that and are so specialized in that area. So let's dive into the topic. You know, first of all, a lot of times treatment centers are asked, what are the outcomes? What are recovery rates? What is the likelihood that someone is going to really fully recover? And it might be not necessarily the easiest question to answer always, but what can someone expect if they get a diagnosis of an eating disorder, of what's the likelihood of a full recovery?
So most people do recover, and there's a decent subpopulation of people that never meet anybody like me or any treatment facilities that really kind of recover on their own. That's more of kind of a rare bird out there. Most people need some assistance with the recovery process. To be honest, I think eating disorders unfortunately has not gotten the funding or the research that it really needs to have for really kind of optimal knowing of what the outcomes are. What the literature looks like, and again, it's a little bit old, and again, I don't think we hit everybody that has been diagnosed with an eating disorder, but it looks like overall about 2/3 of patients will get better, and about 1/3 at any given time may continue to be struggling with their eating disorder. Within that, it looks like about 1/3 of people fully recover and go on to live a life that we would say has normal eating and normal relationship with food in their body. The way I always describe full recovery or being recovered is that eating is like breathing, where most of the time we don't even think about it, right? We just kind of do it. It's one of those things that we need to do. Every once in a while we think about it, right? If we get an infection in our lungs, yeah, I may notice I'm a little bit short of breath and I may go to the doctor for a little bit of a tune up and get something that would help my lungs. Every once in a while, if I'm super out of breath because I'm working out, I may notice my breathing, but most of the time, it's not something I really spend a lot of my time thinking about. But my breathing is really important because it allows me to go do all the other things that I really want to do in my life.
Hmm.
I think of recovery as the process of getting to recovered. And that obviously has a lot of different levels within it of normalizing eating, normalizing behaviors, really working on those core issues that cause the development of an eating disorder in the first place, and then really getting back on track developmentally to do all the things that get you excited about your life that put the eating disorder smaller and smaller and smaller in your past.
Yeah. And so speaking of, you brought up the term in recovery. You know, it's interesting because the substance abuse community, and in particular, those suffering from and recovering from alcoholism, use the word in recovery a lot. And sometimes I've even heard people who've been sober for decades say that they are still in recovery, versus the eating disorder community, which uses the word recovered a lot. What's the difference between those terms? You know, from a clinician's perspective, what do you think the differences between those terms, and do they both mean the same thing?
I think I think on the grand scheme of things, I think they probably mean similar things, right? So in recovery means I'm working my recovery program, I'm sober from whatever behaviors that are there, but it implies that it's still kind of, for the most part, popping up in some way where I'm actively having to work on it. For people with substances, that means avoidance, right? Like avoidance of the substances, avoidance of going places. What's tricky in the eating disorder world is we can't avoid everything, right? We need to eat. We also need movement. So I obviously want to move and do those sorts of things. And then people get sick, right? And so they may vomit every once in a while. That has nothing to do with their eating disorder. So again, I think of recovered as we can't avoid forever. We really do have to kind of be exposed from it. And I think of recovered as being in that kind of top stage of this isn't dominating my life anymore. It's not something that I think about day to day. I feed myself. Maybe I'm even on that intuitive eating where I eat when I'm hungry, I stop when I'm full, I have some movement throughout my day. My body image, for the most part, is pretty good, and I'm free to go do all the other pieces of my life without really focusing day in and day out on recovery.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean though that there may be kind of like slips in the, in our thinking or noticing sorts of things and having periods of time where we have to go back into recovery mode and work on our treatment a little bit more.
Yeah. It brings up a question I really want to ask you, but I just want to say hello to Catherine. She popped in about 5 minutes ago and said hello from the UK. And I just want to say hi, Catherine, and welcome. And also just encourage you guys who are watching to just dive in, jump in with questions whenever you want. Feel free. I'm watching the comments. You mentioned body image and, I've been asked a lot, and we've talked about it before once on this show almost a year ago. There's this terminology, love your body, and there's so much self-love that's celebrated in the recovery process, like self-love of your body. And I think that's so great, right? But it also can be really, really hard for some people. How do you recover? Like there's issues with food and getting rid of the ritualistic behaviors with food and being okay with your fear foods and all that kind of stuff that happens with the food. But the body image piece, I sometimes hear it takes the longest to recover. Is that true?
Absolutely. And so, particularly at the level of care that I work, I'm really, really honest with people that I tell them you're not going to walk out of here loving your body all the time. Like, that's just not realistic. At the level of care that I work, what I really work on is acceptance. And what I really love is we do a type of therapy here called acceptance commitment therapy. What I love about ACT is that it really focuses on things in a little bit different of a way. Instead of symptom reduction, it talks more about living towards your values. And so with our patients, what we talk about is like for a while, realistically, you may struggle with your body image. That's okay. We want you to do things that are important to you despite feeling uncomfortable with your body. And so if your family takes a vacation every year to the beach and you really want to play with your kids in the water, even if you get up that morning and you're a little bit uncomfortable in your body, I want you to be able to throw on a bathing suit, acknowledge that you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable, and then go play with your kids despite that. Over time, obviously, it will get better and better. And as you do more body image work and more acceptance work, you're going to feel more comfortable in your body. But that being said, particularly in our culture, we're so sensitive to body image cues, right? And so we may, even in full recovery, we may still have days where we try on a pair of jeans that just came out of the dryer and be like, oh, I'm a little bit uncomfortable, right? And
Yeah,
that's normal.
everyone has that experience, right? Haven't we all? Yeah.
And so it's a normal kind of range of things. And so if you're not absolutely in love with your body every single day, that's okay. That doesn't mean that you're not in recovery or not recovered.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. Thanks for elaborating on that. What do you say to people who, and I hear this mostly from people who have never experienced an eating disorder or have not had someone in their family who they've been walking with through that they think that someone struggles with an eating disorder for their whole life, or that even if someone gets treatment, that they must still struggle with it in some way. What do you say to those people who object and say, oh no, they're always going to struggle with an eating disorder?
Well, and this is even controversial within our field, right? That sometimes our community is split of like, yeah, you have to kind of always continue to work on it. What I say to that is I've seen people who are fully recovered and I've had the opportunity to spend time with them day in and day out and see that they really don't seem to struggle anymore. That really they eat like a normal person who's never struggled with an eating disorder, and they treat their body like somebody who's never struggled with an eating disorder. And their body image is part of their self image, but it doesn't make up their full image anymore. They see all the other really important pieces of themselves and are working actively on those other pieces. And if you talk to them, they'll talk about their eating disorder in the past, not as something that they're continuing to struggle with, but more of, almost how people would talk about having a really bad medical illness of like, yeah, I had that, it was really rough and now I'm better.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about relapse in the recovery process. I know that it can be really, really tough when a relapse occurs because that person feels like all of that work that I did in recovery was a waste. There's a lot of feelings of shame and guilt. Talk a little bit about the role of relapse in recovery, and that it doesn't have to be a permanent setback. That is relapse really a part of the recovery process itself?
Absolutely. We always talk about relapse being part of the recovery process. And particularly here, and when people are newly in recovery, we talk about we want them to make mistakes and we want them to have those experiences. And the most important part of that is not to keep it a secret, right? To talk about what your struggles are so that we can game plan and figure out workarounds, how we can learn from those lessons. And most importantly, being honest with yourself of, yeah, I'm struggling a little bit right now. I need to do some of that work right now, kind of getting back on track. But all of those things are opportunities for us to learn to really strengthen recovery moving forward. But the only way to do that, unfortunately, is by making some mistakes throughout the day. And that is fine. That is part of your treatment. And you definitely, you never can go backwards, right? Like all of the knowledge and skills that you have gained from treatment, even if you relapse, means that you're starting at this new place, right? That you have all this place where you're just putting it back into safety.
Yeah, absolutely. And how does someone know if they have relapsed? Because obviously it's a really good thing to know if they have, because then that enables them to seek help if they need professional help again, if they need it. How does someone know if what they're going through is not just a bad day or, a difficult moment, that it really qualifies as a relapse?
Well, and what I think of is that there's a difference between a lapse, right, where you catch it really early, you notice like, oh, that behavior wasn't the greatest. Let me make the next best decision. And then when we start to get more of a relapse, I think it's more of the change in the mindset that we start to notice. So you're starting to develop more of your brain space to think about eating, exercise, body image than you were. And that's kind of more on a consistent basis. The isolated piece of it, like not going out with people anymore, not eating in front of people, I think is another big piece of it. And then just kind of if the other pieces of your life are getting smaller. And then if you, what I always ask people to do is to have one or two people in your life that you trust explicitly, that you know that they just have your best interests at heart, and to give them before you leave treatment or before you're kind of going a list of your own red flags of things that you noticed or that behaviors that you tend to really kind of start to go back to. And if they notice that, they have full permission to pull you aside and tell you what they're noticing, not to be the food police, not to do anything other than just make that observation of like, these are the things that I'm noticing. I always tell my patient, you can be as angry as you want to during that moment and you can be dismissive, but you have to promise that you're going to walk away and that sometime within the next 24 hours, you're going to play with the idea that they gave you, see if it actually resonates with you. And if it does, again, this is somebody that you know explicitly loves you, only has your best interest in heart. You're going to come up with a game plan of how to get back on track. Because
Oh,
a lot of times it is hard to see in the moment what we're doing to ourselves again too, particularly because some of the eating disorders are egosyntonic, right, where we feel pretty good when we're engaging in some of the behaviors, at least initially.
yeah, absolutely. No, this is so, so good. Jeremy has a comment or a question that I thought would be a great one for you. He said, in your experience, do you think the recovery path is different between men and women? Have you noticed any disparity in how well a male patient might recover fully versus a female patient?
I think recovery, I think both can do it as well as each other. I think the difficult part with males is that there's still some stigma attached to it. So what I see is that a lot of times we get males into treatment a little bit later than what we get females, just because of sometimes the stigma around it, or just a lack of knowledge that I think sometimes, unfortunately, still this disorder is considered like a female disorder. And so people don't make the connections as fast of like, hey, no, this could be an eating disorder. Let's get them specialized care. In terms of the recovery process, though, now I've seen them do as well as females. Again, as long as they have those people in their lives, both professional and support, that they feel comfortable going to?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeremy. Thanks so much. And just want to let you guys know that we're probably going to be wrapping up here with Dr. Garber in just a couple minutes. So if you've got any thoughts or questions that you want to make sure you get in, now is definitely time to do it. So let's just talk a little bit about how to prevent relapse and how to stay on that path of recovered. How important is the aftercare process? And can you just destigmatize also just the role of therapy? Because I think I'm so pro therapy now, and my whole family is, since my journey. And, you know, feel like, yeah, people should definitely like get therapy. You should definitely be in therapy. Like anything you've got trouble with, always reach out for help. But a lot of people might not necessarily feel that way, or feel that like once they did their treatment, they're done. How important is aftercare and the role of therapy and, potentially other counselors then throughout the rest of your life?
So particularly coming from a higher level of care, inpatient, residential, or PHP, aftercare is imperative, right? Like you're going from a really intense structure, basically your entire day in treatment with support and staff, and meals that are real scheduled, to going back into your real life. And we know that in eating disorders in particular, transitions tend to be a period of time where we're vulnerable, right? Both good transitions and negative transitions. So even the transition of returning home back into your normal life, you need support. And we recommend getting support from a dietitian and a therapist at minimum. If you're somebody who needs family therapy or psychiatry, obviously adding in those pieces. But you really need care in terms of how do I translate this meal plan that I've been eating at this very structured level of care back into my real life, with the breaks that I have in my real daily life and the natural activity that I'm having where my meal plan may need to adjust. And oh, wait, I don't like that particular food. How do I make a substitute with it? You really need that support of how to navigate that. And then again, just the stress of returning home, you need somebody who's unbiased, who's not just a family member who's going to try to boost you up, but who can kind of give you some real feedback too. And sometimes, obviously, we don't want family members doing that. We want them to fully support you. And there's some things that maybe you just don't feel 100% comfortable talking to your family about, right? That having somebody that you care about, that you know cares about you in a professional relationship, can feel like a really safe place. And then treatment, particularly therapy, can be a stop and go sort of thing that we do really well for a long period of time. And then we have a transition in our life where like we start to feel a little bit wobbly, is how I describe it. And that would be a great time to go in briefly for kind of a tune up in therapy, talk to somebody. Let's say you move to a new city, that can be an incredibly stressful time, place, just to kind of make sure that you're doing well, and having somebody to talk up to through those things, maybe even tune up a little bit of skills, can be perfect. Not that necessarily therapy has to be a lifelong thing, but a lot of people find it really beneficial for different periods of time in their life.
Yeah, so good. Thank you for doing that. And, just want to get this comment in. So it looks like Ahmed Abdel Halim. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, but I did my very best. Welcome to the show. Thanks for your comment. He said he says, I'm in Egypt and there's no institutions where there is professional help. There's only therapy, DBT, and mindfulness. I've only one friend, and unfortunately, family can't help. So, Dr. Garber, what obviously Ahmed's issue is he's not alone in this, because there are people all over the world who can't access quality care. And I'm so glad that you found us here at Eating Disorder Hope. And Ahmed, I also just want to say, like, take a look on our Facebook page. Go to eatingdisorderhope.com. There are tons and tons of articles, resources, blogs, videos, etc., that you can watch. Tons of former episodes of Weekly Hope as well, with different professionals where you can listen in on topics that are meaningful to you. So use us as a resource. We're here for you. We want to provide you with help and support. But Dr. Garber, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what people who maybe don't have access to care in their area, what they can do with the resources that they have, or what support they can seek.
Absolutely. And what you described is beautiful, right? Like the internet is a place of rich kind of sources of it, as long as you go to a reputable website like ED Hope. where you're getting good information that you can give to your family so that maybe they can help support you a little bit more. A lot of times they'll have on sample like meal plans or things like that that you can work with
That
families.
if they place a kind of sources of it is like
I don't know what's going on. That you can give to your primary care physician. They can give you a lot of support around that. And then using the types of therapy that are available, right? Like an individual therapist can provide a wealth of support. Mindfulness, we know, is very, very important of reducing anxiety, helping to kind of complete the meal plan. And then DBT, it's been found to be so evidence-based for so many different things that even if they're not focusing particularly on eating disorder symptoms, you can translate that into how do I change this around a little bit to help me with the things that I am struggling with within my eating disorder. So it's really being an.
Oh, did we lose Dr. Garber? Uh-oh.
Can you still see me?
Yes, you're back. Okay, you just popped out for a second,
Okay.
but I can see you again.
Sorry.
No worries.
And I don't know where I cut off, but again, just being an advocate and getting the resources that you need and sharing them with as many people as you can, both professional and with your family, friends.
Yeah, so great. Thank you so much for tackling that. And I did put our link in there again so that you can find tons of resources. And what's really cool as well is that the Meadows Ranch has been an amazing partner, and there are tons of articles on the site that are authored by clinicians directly from the Meadows Ranch. So as Dr. Garber said, this isn't just random information. It's authored by clinicians. This is expert tools and advice. So hopefully that can be a resource for you and for your community as well. So great question. And, Dr. Garber, last thing, and I ask everyone this who comes on here, you obviously are in the thick of this every single day. You're working with clients. And first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for doing that, because it's such a hard job. And I know I can say for myself and so many people who have gone through this and come out on the other side that we owe our lives to you all who who work and serve in these places and help us to recover to full life again. But if someone's listening right now and is in a really dark place in their recovery, what words of encouragement would you give them?
To reach out. That eating disorders thrive in secrecy and isolation. So reach out to somebody that can be professionals or support people, right? You can't do this by yourself. You need advocates with you. You need people to walk down this journey with you. So talking to people is the first thing, and those other people can help guide you to professionals or to more support that can be helpful in your journey.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's been such a joy to have you on. Thank you for sharing your time, your thoughts, and your wisdom. I know it was so helpful for everyone who tuned in, and as well, always gives me good things to think about and ways to help the people that I come into contact with as well. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. It's been a joy.
Yeah. So that's it for us today here at Weekly Hope. Thank you all so much for tuning in and your really great questions. If we didn't hear from you, just want to say thank you again for watching, and also that if there was something on here that was said that was really meaningful or impactful to you, or maybe to someone who wasn't able to watch, just want to encourage you that this video is going to be available here on our Facebook page on the videos tab, as well as uploaded to our YouTube channel. So feel free to download, share the link, share with people who you might think this, or who you think this might be helpful for. That's why we're here. We just want to share these resources so that people like Dr. Garber can help you wherever you may be. And I just want to add one little addendum to the great thought that Dr. Garber left us with, and that is also that full recovery is possible. Like, if you remember nothing else from today's show, just remember, and Dr. Garber said it several times, it's just full recovery is possible. And you don't have to suffer with this forever, that a life of freedom is truly possible. So just know that even in the darkest moment, hold on to that, because you can truly recover to a healthy, full, wonderful, beautiful, free, productive life. So just hold that in your heart with you, wherever you may be today. So we'll see you back here tomorrow for another episode of Weekly Hope at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Wherever you are, have a wonderful, beautiful day, and we will see you tomorrow. All right. Bye, everyone.